Day 6 of testimony in the trial of Colin Gray. Our Grace King joining us now live from outside of the Barrow County Superior Courthouse. Grace, Marcy Gray on the stand today. What did jurors hear from her?
Well, jurors are hearing a very different account of the Gray family's life in 2024 and all the efforts she says that she was making to try and get Colt some help. She's painting Colin as an abusive father, mentally and physically, who created a, quote, nightmare situation in their home. She says despite her struggles with addiction and her criminal history, she was a good mother, one that was trying to get things together and was caring for Colt. She talked a lot about the different things she did, but of course the defense is now, that was all during the state's questioning of her. The defense is now poking a lot of holes in questions, including some concerning Google searches. They say she was looking up why the Crumbly parents were charged in Michigan. They're the parents of the school shooter there that faced criminal charges. They were saying, why are you looking up these things 4 or 5 days before this school shooting happened? Why are you looking up the Georgia gun laws in relations to minors? So really a lot of questions about what Marcy knew, when she knew it, and when she told Colin, of course, the dad on trial in this case.
And Grace, we understand that Marcy Gray and Colin Gray are separated. You mentioned some challenges with Marcy Gray and some issues that prevented her from being full-time in that family picture. Can you describe a little more about the background of Marcy Gray?
Yeah, Marcy and Colin Gray, they got married, I believe Colt was born in 2011, so I want to say 2007 or 2009. I have to check my notes, but they are still technically legally married. They had been separated mainly because Marcy was dealing with addiction. She was in and out of rehab and jail and living with her mom, and just things weren't quite right in the house. It sounds like some of the kids would kind of rotate back and forth between which parent they wanted to live with. So they had been separated for quite some time before this happened. Now, Marcy spent a good 6-8 months in jail, and then she was released to rehab. So she moved home back in 2024 after spending time in rehab. She says that's kind of when she had gotten everything straightened out. She only lived at the house for 5 weeks. Her and Colt got in some kind of physical fight in mid-August, and then she moved out of the house. So she was kind of in and out. At some point, all the kids lived with her. At some point, all the kids lived with Colin. At some point, the younger siblings lived with Marcy. Just Colt lived with Colin. So it's just kind of a messy family situation that just wasn't super stable for anyone involved.
And Grace, I think we do have some of Marcy Gray's testimony queued up right now. Reams, we have that? Let's go ahead and play that right now.
Yes, I had already tried to call the school multiple times and no one was answering. So then I tried calling my daughter's school, which was right there by the high school, and nobody was answering there. So that's when I Googled the.
And when you Googled it and found that there was an active shooter, you sent the defendant a text message at 11:34, and it says it's already on the news. At that point, did y'all know what had happened?
Yeah, I don't think you have to have a whole lot of sense to know what had happened at that point.
And Grace, as we listen to that piece of testimony, I know throughout the day as well, and in other days of the trial, jurors, or rather witnesses, have talked about Colt Gray's interest in convicted school shooters in other cases. Did Marcy Gray talk at all about that today?
She did. She said that Colt talked a lot about the school shooters. He knew a lot about their interests, their hobbies, their looks, etc. At one point, she said that he had made a joke about wanting to complete his school shooter uniform, which she told him, hey, that's not funny. Let's not joke about that. And he was like, Mom, I'm just messing around. But she said she never really picked up on any of those conversations, even though they were odd, as concerning in that he would idolize them or looked up to them. She thought it was more, she said she really likes true crime documentaries, and they would watch a lot of them together. She thought it was more of a fascination in that sense, as someone who would go home and watch those Netflix docuseries, if you will, and not that he would actually do something. But in the days leading up to the school shooting, she was a lot more concerned about his fragile mental state, the panic attacks, the anxiety. She really felt that he needed that inpatient help. And she was calling the school saying, hey, I'm concerned about him. The school wasn't able to talk to her the week before. She didn't get a hold of the guidance counselor until the day of the shooting. At that point, the guidance counselor said, hey, he's asking about active shooter drills, what we do here. And Marcy said, you need to take this seriously. You need to hang up the phone. You need to go find him now, because that's kind of when she started to put the pieces together. It was just minutes, really, before, unfortunately, that shooting started.
More context that we continue to learn as this trial continues. Our Grace King outside of the Barrow County Superior Courthouse. Grace, thank you very much.